not watching Brothers Just Searching, may I ask why? They're terrific, you guys. They're just terrific. Here's looking at you, kid.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to this segment of Brothers Just Searching, where we talk about God's Word and current world events to educate and to edify believers of Jesus Christ. I'm Isaac, along with Anthony, and along with Bowen. Aubrey is off for this segment. Guys, what's going on?
Well, life, and abundant life.
Well, I'm waiting for Jesus to come back.
Jesus is coming. Oh,
Jesus is coming. Oh, when he's coming.
Any day now. And LB has that mute button ready, like, no! Oh, you gotta love LB and tall Hezekiah.
Yeah.
Producer Hezekiah.
Yes,
They're doing
yes.
Man, you know what these guys were doing earlier, though? I was filming the Cajun Conservative, and I'm hard working at the computer. I'm speaking out my opinion. They're playing chess in the kitchen.
Well, sure. They got to have something.
Man, I didn't give them vacation yet.
Yeah.
You
Well, cut their pay.
Huh? He said it's strategy of the brain.
Yeah.
Strategy of the brain.
Strategy of the brain.
I'm trying.
I like how Boogie walked in door and said, "Boy, Lloyd's good at chess." Hezekiah's like, "I beat him all the time."
You know. Sometimes was that cartoon Disney made? Meet the Robinsons. You know that skinny tall one. He's like trying to think. He's
trying to think.
Yeah. I'm like that sometimes.
You do that every day when you're trying to wake up.
And I really like him. Watch out.
Hey, we was talking about something. You just saying that like I was watching that it's a bounty hunter in California, and he had a taser, and that big dude was walking to him. He said, "Don't walk any closer to him." Boogie seen it. He's like, "What you gonna do? What you gonna do?" He said, "Don't walk up close." That dude took one step with the hit over that taser.
Go.
And then the dude gets up. He has the prone stuck in his chest. He said, "Don't get up. Don't do that." Hey, spiritual lesson though. You know how many times God said, "Don't do that. Don't do that." We get back and we're doing the exact same. God said, "Don't do it."
Yeah,
the electric fire of the word.
We just don't listen. I heard one preacher say this. He said, "Everything else obeys God except us."
You think about it. You're right on that. The animals obey God. The wind, the rain, everything.
He said, "This us."
Yeah, just
We're
us.
the only ones that are stubborn that don't listen.
How they say that in Cajun French? T'es deux.
Tête deux.
Tête deux.
Oh, ça c'est un tête deux. Il vaut pas là. Il est pas bon pour rien.
That's it. Hey, now we know how to get Bowen's secret identity or his other personality. Talk Cajun French. See, that's all it does.
Ça gagne tête deux. Ça vaut pas. C'est pas bon.
Hold up, Bo. Boy, you're going to have some Calvinists start believing in tongues.
C'est pas bon pour rien. Il vaut pas rien. Oh, Lord. Pauvre bête. Moi, on va saquer les 15 coups de tape. Oh, la même oreille. Il va jamais oublier ça. Moi, on va mettre mon piano sur bouche. Il va. Oh, c'est triste quand même.
And he keeps on going.
Well, you got a French lesson tonight.
Hey, la bonjour va punir les yeux.
LP, I got a special request. Put that on TikTok. I bet we go viral. YouTube short, TikTok, everything. Let's go with it.
We're going to blow up the computer.
Hey, we might start making money.
Tu connais la bon Dieu, si tu connais pas lui, tu gagnes des tracas.
Now, hold on, Bo. Now, if my parents come up to me and say, "You got to get Bowen off that mic," we know what he said. Don't get him off that mic.
What did he say?
Saquez les 15 coups de tape.
Bowen, we don't understand.
Saquez-les un coup de poing.
I'll open a can of worms.
You shouldn't have started that.
I'll open a can of worms. So, anyway, what were you saying? Don't.
No bad words. There was no bad words.
Okay.
There was no bad words.
I know for sure one part he was saying there's some hard heads.
Ouais, il y a un tête deux, moi va arracher les oreilles.
Yeah, I know that.
So, Bowen, I got a question on that before we start our Bible study. How old? You had to learn that because you had family members that.
I was born and raised around it, Isaac. Since I was a little boy of 5, 6, 7 years old, my mom and daddy would talk French because we didn't understand. So they talk French to hide things from us. But as me,
Yeah, they did that.
listen. It's true. It's true. They talk French, so we couldn't understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
Especially around the holidays, like around Christmas, they'd tell everybody what they were getting us for Christmas. But we got wise. You know, we'd start listening and we
picking up the words.
We started picking up the words, and then after a while, when we started learning what they were saying, they couldn't hide it from us no more. So they would quit talking about it. But wait, this is the best part. My daddy's mama, my grandmother, told us one time, she said, listen, she said, I'm going to tell y'all what. She said, if y'all teach me to read and get my driver's license, she said, I'm going to teach y'all how to talk French.
Uh-oh.
Let me tell you something, buddy. We taught her how to read, get her driver's license. She got it. And all four of us learned how to talk French.
And that's when your parents couldn't hide that no more.
They couldn't hide nothing because I could talk French with my parents, my grandmothers, my uncles, and everything they said I understood, and I could repeat it back, you know.
Well, it was, I think it's Andre, our cousin.
Mm-hmm.
They did it. His grandfather told him that he was not gonna talk to him no other way except Cajun French, and that's for the culture. Like us, I know a few words. Boogie, you know a few words.
That Cajun culture is dying because people don't do it as much as they used to.
And you know, so this is the weird thing. Okay, if you look at history, back when the government, after World War II, was telling Americans, "Hey, you only can know English."
Right.
And
it's shocking.
I heard one person say it. I think it was on TikTok. I saw that, where they said that the schools would beat the children to stop them from speaking Cajun French.
Yeah.
Now, do you know that there's some schools that are trying to implement it because we losing our culture?
We are.
Well, it's funny how one century is bad, and the next century we got to bring it back up. So I don't know.
C'est pas bon. C'est pourri. C'est pas bon. Ça vaut pas rien.
Yes, we gotta get this on. We gotta get this on YouTube. I bet we blow up. Hey, we need to make a new segment for this show, guys. Write it down. Bowen's Cajun French Bible Study.
Wait. Mets ça au YouTube. Tu vas voir la paix. Oh, tu vas voir la paix. La paix alors prend feu. Now, feu va prayer, boy.
All right, guys. So let's start our Bible study for this segment.
In English.
Yeah, in English, please, Bo. Please, in English. All right, guys. So we're gonna be starting off. Our last segment, we read the whole thing, and we talked about children and fathers or parents not provoking their children to anger. This segment, we're going to go into servants and masters. I'm going to start off in verse 5 of chapter 6 of Ephesians. It says, servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of your heart, as unto Christ. Not with eye servant as men pleasers, but as a servant of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will-doing service, as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bound or free. Verse 9, and ye masters, do the same thing unto them, forbearing threatening, knowing that your master also is in heaven. Neither is there respect a person with him. So, guys, let's start off obvious. It says servants. Now, there's some text. I think under the ESV says bond servants.
Mm-hmm.
A bond servant was somebody that voluntarily gave their services up to somebody.
Right. Like, for example, if they had a big debt, they'd rather be a slave and pay off the debt.
We explained this a little bit. A lot of people will use the Bible and say, well, Bible is for slavery. First off, the Jewish people, you couldn't abuse your slaves. You had to treat them with respect.
Right.
And also, if you study John MacArthur's teachings on it, he basically said that this is something of, how can I say this? It was more of a welfare system in Israel.
Yeah.
If you had to be a servant, you had to be a servant for at least 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
After 7 years, they had to give it back. They had to whatever that person had or the master had, they would have to give it back to that person. So it was more like a welfare system. But a bond servant, what they would do is, after the 7 years, they say, look, we don't want our property back. We don't want our freedom. We just want to live under your rule.
Yeah.
So they voluntarily gave themselves up. So they would pierce their right ear.
Mm-hmm.
and would be with a ring. And that showed people, look, we didn't ask them to be slaves. We didn't force them to be slaves. They went ahead and they voluntarily gave up themselves. So that's what this is saying right here. Servants, be obedient to them who are your masters. Now, you can look at masters as employees. I'm not, because like I said, we live in a day in society where freedom is not there no more. And thank the Lord, it's not there. Slavery was evil. Back in the country's time, it was bad. But then you had servants and you had masters. If you want to put this in context for the day, employees with employers. So Paul is basically saying, hey, you employee, be obedient to them who are your master or your employer, according to the flesh, where with fear and trembling, in singleness of your heart, as unto Christ. Now, that fear and trembling right there, it's not like, oh, I'm scared of the boss, I don't want the boss around. It's basically meaning to be respectful. Same thing with the Lord. A lot of people say, oh, you fear God. Yeah, I fear God. It's a reverence fear. It's the same thing as your daddy. You know, I love dad with all my heart. Don't let daddy come after me with a big stick that I'm fearful. You know, I reverence that. I'm just using that example. But it's not that type of fear. But Paul's saying, look, in singleness of your heart as unto Christ. You know, hey, serve that master or serve that boss as unto Christ. As you being a man of God serving Christ. And he said, not with eye servant or man pleasers. Don't try to kiss the boss's rear end.
Right.
Don't try to go ahead and tell the boss, hey, you know, I like you, and you know, just to try to get brownie points, as they say. Bowen, you had an interesting point on that earlier because we was talking about that during prep about men pleasers and not but being unto Christ. You know, while we're on that scripture, go ahead and elaborate on what you were saying right there.
In English.
What?
You start talking that Cajun French.
You had to bring that up, didn't you? What I was saying is that, you know, we try to please man. Today's society, a lot of Christians today are trying to please man. You know, they want to look good in front of man. And they want to be the image and let man see what they can do. But why should we try to please man? We need to please God. Okay? Right. God is our master. God is our Lord. God is the one that we're serving. So if we're going to serve Christ and we're going to be servants unto Christ, I believe it's more important to serve him and please him. Because in the long run, if we please him instead of trying to please man, we're going to be rewarded for it. But I want to read something, because I found something right here, and I'm going to read it to you. Just give me a minute. It won't take me long to find it because I have it right there in front of me.
I'm glad you said a minute and not a second.
Yeah. Not by the way of eye service. Not by the way of eye service do we try to please man. Okay? As people pleasers, as you know, people try to please each other or please somebody else. But as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. Doing the will of God. Okay, you want to please people? You want to please man? You want to do so you can look good in the eyes of man? Well, if you're doing that, you're not doing the will of God. Because it said right there, do being a bondservant. But as a bondservant of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. So if we're going to serve Christ and we're going to be a bondservant unto Jesus Christ, we need to do it unto him from the heart. It needs to come from here. It needs to come from deep within. It needs to come with love and respect unto him. And do it with love. Do it with the heart. I got one more I'm going to read, and it goes with it. It's almost identical. Knowing that whatsoever good anyone does, listen to that, whatsoever good you do in life, this he will receive back from the Lord. In other words, whatever you do that's good for the Lord, unto the Lord, whatever you do to please him, whatever you do to show him how much you love him, you're going to receive it back. The Lord's going to give it back to you, man.
And that's what it says.
Whether he is a bondservant or is free. Whether he's a bondservant to Christ or whether he's free. You know, It don't matter.
And that's what I was about to say. You're pointing out to verse 7 and 8, because at the inner part of verse 6, when it says, "Would not I servants as man pleasers," or saying, look, being butt kissers, or trying to tell the boss, hey, try to please man. But if you go ahead and you do it, it says, doing the will of God from the heart, saying, look, you're serving God and you're doing that out of obedience to the Lord, because you are a servant of Christ. You should go ahead and be a servant to that boss or to that master. And it says, verse 7 and 8, with good, well-being servants as to the Lord and not to men, saying, look, you're doing that unto the Lord. Because, and look, like I said earlier, we go in prep, we talked about this a little bit. I think we all guilty of going behind the boss's back. Oh, that boss, I can't believe it. He don't do this.
Oh, yeah.
He don't do that.
Yeah, we all guilty of that.
We all guilty of that.
We all
and look, I hate to say, if there's a Christian who says, oh, I never said that.
No, you lying.
Anybody.
Yeah, everybody has to complain about the boss.
No matter if you're Christian or not.
But if we go and say, Lord, let us be a servant of you. Lord, let us go ahead. We're going to serve. We're going to be like Christ. And look what verse 8 said, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive, and the Lord, whether he be bond or free. So it don't matter if you're free, no matter if you're the boss. It don't matter if you are the worker.
The worker.
If you do this, you're going to go ahead and you're gonna get rewarded.
You're gonna get rewarded.
But at the same time, look, but it's also a testimony too. You think about it.
It can be a testimony unto you.
You know. Look, and I had some bosses. I had some bosses.
Oh,
in my
me
time.
too. I've had bosses.
And one particular coming up, man. He would light a fuse for anything. He just wanted to fight. And, I remember one time I got there and I was like, I was upset. And I was being quiet and he started fussing at us and stuff like that. And he looked at me and he told me something and said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just respected him. And, man, he got out that shop. 5 seconds, he turned around and goes, hey, I want to tell you something. Stop telling me yes or no, sir. That made me mad even more. And he walked out. But I wasn't aggressive with him. I was respecting him as a boss, and it wasn't on. He was upset. But if you look at that, before I left, he would say, "Look, at least Isaac's honest with me. At least Isaac respects me." You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, did that person ever come to the Lord? I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a while. Mm. But at the same time,
the witness was there.
You had other people. Oh, you don't tell me that, boss. You don't tell me. And they would fight. And guess what? They weren't respectful. And they would give him, I'm going to be respectful back. It was normal for him to have somebody treat him with respect. And that was a testimony to everybody that was there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow.
And that's where you have to, it's a light of Christ. You have to be a light of Christ. You have to be inspired by what the Lord's telling you to do. Go ahead, guys.
I was hearing a guy and he was talking about this topic, and it's something he said that kind of got my attention. It still stuck with me. He said, do it as you're doing unto Christ. He said, can you imagine if Christ came up to you and he says, I want you to sweep for me. Oh, yes, Lord, it's you. I would love to sweep for you, Jesus. And you're sweeping, for him. You're doing it with all your heart and soul. And he says, well, that's the same thing you should do for your boss, or you should do for other people, serving people. Do it just like if you were doing, like Christ was asking to do, not a favor, but if Christ was asking you to do something. He says, think of it in that area when you're working for someone, or when you're, and that's I think it's a good point. It's a good analogy. Think of, the same thing he said too that kind of got me thinking. And every time I work, I always got that. Was I perfect? No, but I always had that in my mind. Like when I was working, even the supervisor and bosses, well, I'm going to do something, Boog, just keep doing what you're doing. There was a lot of times there's temptation, like, hey, go and take a break and then work when he's coming back. Yeah. But you be a light and say, no, I'm gonna keep working. And, I'll drink, I'll take my break, and then I'll go back to work. That, people see with cameras, too. Where we at, there's cameras. So people watch that. And so that's what I'm saying. You got to be and people can see that. You'd be surprised how people look for that. Worldly or Christian, they look for that in the workforce. And that gives you favor in the eyes of God, when you do that.
I want to share something with y'all, and it just came to my mind. I don't know if it's going to line up with this or not. But, my boss that hired me, mm-hmm. is probably one of the nicest men that I've ever met. He has a good character. He's very polite. He's very nice. You can tell he has a heart. But every time he comes to school, I can be doing my work. I can be doing something. He'll come by me. He'll tap me on the shoulder. He said, Bowen, come work with me. Come on, let's go talk. And every once in a while I feel guilty, because I'm not doing what I'm supposed
Right,
to do.
right, right.
And one day he did that, and I told him, I said, Mr. Mike, I said, I'm trying to do my. He said, no. He said, put that down. He said, I said, come with me. I'm the boss. Come walk
He's
with
right.
me, and we're going to go talk, or we're going to go do something, and, we're going to look around or whatever. One day, I ain't lying to you. This is the truth, man. I was doing my work. He come get me in a classroom. Okay, I was painting. We were painting the classrooms and getting them ready for the school year. He come in the classroom. He said, Bowen, put down that paintbrush, drop everything you're doing, and come with me. I said, man, where are we going? He said, just come with me. Well, they were fixing the ground outside to put the artificial turf down. He brought me walk outside with him, and we went and talked to the men that were working outside. Yeah.
Gave you a coffee break.
Yeah. He said, yeah, just come walk with me. He said, we're going to go talk to them fellas outside. He said, you all right? He said, don't worry about the work. He said, you can do your work later. I must have spent 2 hours with that guy before I went back to work, bro. So, it's not like, he knows I do my job.
Mm-hmm.
He knows I'll do what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's like I feel guilty sometimes. He comes.
And there's 2 points right there. First off, he sees you work. He knows the work's going to get done. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But secondly, like you said, what would he do if he would have walked in and you...
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Then at the same time, you're guilty. You get what I'm saying? Because look, I remember working for my last employer. Now my dad's my employer. And there was sometimes, we'll be, and I'd even do that here sometime when there's nothing to do. We leave, or we work on a half a day, whatever. But my last employer, some of them guys, they would stay. There was no work from early in the morning to late afternoon, sit in the shop, settle down. I would leave.
Yeah.
And they look at me, Isaac, you don't like your money? Oh, I love my money. It pays my bills.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I feel I'm robbing this employer.
Yeah.
Right.
Of his time and money. And, look, and it's just, it goes to a point of that. Even that, my former boss told me one time, he said, look, Isaac, at least you don't take my money. You get what I'm saying? But It was the same way. When there was extra work and they needed me to stay, my boss was like, hey, can you do this? Or, hey, we're going to lunch. Come see. Well, I'm working. Well, you can wait until after. That's a good light, though. That is a good light. But you know what? We're doing it unto Christ. We should do our job unto Christ.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do it. And that's everything in life, but especially our work. Because first of all, most of the time we're interacting with worldly.
Because a lot of times when I'm working and we clean classrooms, they get done with the work early. Now, the ladies I work with, after we're done with everything, they like to go sit down in the teacher's planning place, or it's like a teacher's lounge.
Teacher's lounge, yeah.
And they like to sit in there, and you can have half hour, 45 minutes. They want to sit in there and just sit on there. And I feel like I'm robbing the people of their money when I sit there, So sometimes I'll clock out early and I'll just go home. And they say, man, you're not getting no paycheck. You're losing your money. I say, I'm not losing money. I said, that little bit of money I'm going to lose for clocking out early, I said, that ain't going to hurt me at all.
No.
God's going to bless you.
God's going to provide my needs.
Yep.
Hey, I did that one time. Sometimes I clock in early. Sometimes I clock in right on time. One time I lost 2 hours, and my check was still big enough for me to pay my bills.
Wow. And have leftovers.
And had leftovers.
God provides.
Anyhow.
So on that note, let's switch to because look, none of us own our own business. My dad owns the business that we work for. Well, Anthony, you work for a Christian fella. But this verse 9, it talks to the masters. And I guess you could, like I said, you can flip this. You can say this to employers, because we don't have masters, and some people might go to work and say, yeah, I got a slave driver.
Yeah.
So,
I heard that already.
But I heard that too. But anyway, verse 9 says, and ye masters do the same thing unto them, forbearing threatening, or don't threaten your employer or your employees, knowing that your master also is in heaven, neither is there respect a person with him. Basically, it's turning around saying, look, and like I said, we're using this as employers. So if you're an employer, you own a company. And look, I know a lot of God-fearing men that own their own company. And a lot of their employees are saying, look, we're happy with them. They work with us. They help us out. They don't threaten us. Because there's some bosses that do that. Boy, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to be fired. Bible said don't do that as an employer. Right. Don't threaten you people.
As a Christian employer.
The Christian
a worldly employer won't understand that.
They won't understand that. And he says, knowing that your master is also in heaven, neither is there respect of person. Look, I've been in a job situation where I've seen that. And look, this lost people, of course. But I've been in a job situation to where I saw favoritism. I believe I got
I've
out of.
been
I
there,
believe
too.
that I got suckered out of a promotion because of favoritism.
Yeah, there's
And
jobs like
that person gave me every excuse in the book why they didn't do it and why they went with them. Well, I saw right there. But the Lord said, look, there's no respect of person. You should treat everybody equally. You should treat everybody with respect. You should not threaten them. You should, do, and he said the same thing unto them, where she's saying everything that applied to a servant should go to a master as well. He should be obedient. He should go ahead and do everything unto Christ. He should not be a man pleaser, because there's some bosses like that too. They want to please everything they do. Their crew does. So he's saying, look, everything I told you, plus don't threaten them, and at the same time be a respecter of person. So and look, and let's end it out with this, guys.
I got one scripture I want to read.
Let me finish this one thought. This shows that that a Christian just doesn't have a higher standard in the world, but even a boss and you being in the world as an employee has a higher standard. You think about it, and a lot of people say, well, Christians have a higher standard. Yes, because we do everything unto Christ.
Right.
And because we do everything unto Christ, we should live holy and acceptable unto Christ. We have that higher standing.
Yes. Let me read this to you, and it'll probably fit in with what you're talking about, Isaac. For the Lord your God is God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, who is not portrayal and takes no bribes. In other words, God don't take bribes from nobody.
No.
Okay? He is the God of gods. He is the Lord. He's the Almighty. He's the one that put everything that you see on this earth. This is his creation. So in other words, if we're gonna do as unto the Lord, we gotta do it with respect, and we gotta do it from the heart.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And he don't take no bribes. Okay? God don't show partiality to nobody. God's not going to take a bribe from you. You know, you can bribe him, or you can, you think you got favoritism with. You don't. God don't show partiality to nobody. You know, God has no favorites. Everybody is the same in God's eyes. He looks at everybody the same way. He don't have no favorites. He shows no partiality. You get your rewards that you receive. You know, whatever reward he's going to give you, that's the reward you're going to get. You know, so I mean,
That's right.
Well, it goes back to the parable of the
5 talents.
No, not the 5 talents. It was the one where the guy says, "Hey, I'm going to hire you for a penny for the day."
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And you went did it back in the afternoon.
And he
I
pays
can't
them
remember.
all
I can't.
equally.
Yeah,
I
he
remember
paid them all
I
equally.
know.
And them guys were like, "Well, wait a
Doesn't
minute. We
matter.
worked all day, and you gave us a penny like you gave them people that an hour."
He
And he
said
said, "Didn't I agree for you a penny?"
That's right.
You know, and that's where we got to go. God's going to reward you.
Yeah.
For what you're doing. So,
Right.
You
got to do
Exactly.
it.
Yes,
You're going
sir.
to get rewarded
Yes, sir.
in the long run.
And
will
you
get
got to watch.
rewarded.
You got to watch like the Lord's watching you.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too. A lot of people think I can get away with it because the boss ain't watching. Yeah,
No, but
the boss
God's
might not be
watching.
watching, but God's watching. God's seeing.
And that's what I think every time when I work. Yep, God's watching.
God sees.
God's seeing.
Oh,
God's
yeah.
watching.
That's
so.
right. He is.
But anyway, I guess we better get out of here before Bowen starts talking back Cajun French.
Oh yeah. He
Oh,
knows.
no, no.
C'est l'heure pour aller à la maison.
Say what?
C'est l'heure pour aller à la maison.
Say what?
Oui. Bonsoir. Bonne journée. Bawato. Oh, I don't know how to say
Bowen's like,
Wait, gotta refresh my memory.
Bowen said it's way too late to think about it too. Bowen said he got to eat his ham sandwich.
My brain shut down. I can't think no more.
It finally shut down?
At least it's not fried. It's shut down, but not fried.
It's partially
When it's fried, then you got problems.
With that being said, we want to thank you for listening to the segment of the Cajun. Oh, Lord. Thank you for listening to this episode of Brothers Just Searching. I hope in 2 weeks I'm going to be all right. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and or like button on the platform you're listening on. Until next time, be blessed, be encouraged. You have a good one. Be blessed.